Hi, welcome to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. If you're a brand new visitor to my channel, yay! I'm so glad you finally found me. My goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision as to whether or not you want to spend time or money or both watching a specific movie. And if you're a returning subscriber, yay! Thanks so much for coming back. Let me know what I can do to improve my channel and make videos that are really helpful and useful for you. All right, so the movie I'm reviewing today is called Emancipation. This movie is rated R and is 2 hours and 12 minutes long. That's pretty long. And this epic period drama about slavery is based on a true story. It's now in theaters and on streaming. My overall movie review mom grade is an A-. Now, don't click away to another YouTube channel just because I told you my score. Let me explain why. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is because a lot of reviewers are not liking this film, and I actually did. So I'll tell you why. I'll give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out the things that I liked, as well as a few things that I didn't like. And then I'll offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are somewhat similar that I think you'll also really like, and you may find to be even better. All right, so in a nutshell, this gritty drama is a perfect example of how film critics and regular people ingest and interpret movies differently. Critics have given it an embarrassing low score of 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, while audiences have awarded it at an extremely high 93%. It's about a runaway slave who forges through the dangerous swamps of Louisiana on a tortuous journey to escape plantation owners that nearly killed him in search of freedom, not just for him, but for his family. So here's the list of things that I really liked about this film. First of all, director Antoine Fuqua. He does such good movies, and he really loves to play with black and white in this film, possibly a choice to underscore the division between the black and white races during the period of the Civil War in U.S. history, as well as to show how dreary and devastating that time was for African Americans. Some viewers hate the director decided to use a grayscale color palette, but I think for me, it worked really well. Will Smith truly disappears and becomes the slave from Haiti. I'm sure he's hoping for an Oscar nomination, and he definitely deserves one for this role. I mean, the guy wrestled an alligator, starved to death, got beaten and shot. Something similar, which earned Leonardo DiCaprio an Academy Award for Best Actor in the movie The Revenant. Did you ever see that one? That being said, even if he is nominated, and I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be allowed to be nominated, I think so, but he definitely will not be allowed to attend the live Academy Awards due to his terrible behavior last year. Ben Foster also gives a powerful performance, and he always does. If you want to see him even more vicious and violent, check out the movie Medieval. I did a movie review of that one. In fact, I'll cue that one up so you can watch that one after you watch this review. The time period is totally different, but it's very visceral and very violent. But his performance is excellent in that one as well. It's really fascinating to learn the story behind the famous picture that was taken of the male slave whose back was completely covered in scars from being beaten by his slave owners. At the end of the movie, we get to see that actual picture, and it is devastating. The sweeping music I thought was just perfect. Three-time Oscar-winning cinematographer Robert Richardson does an incredible job painting a very bleak world amidst brutal nature and politics. When dust blows, that when the sun glares down on sweaty heads and horse hoofs walk through mud, we feel it. This is a very visceral movie, I thought. And that's why I'm thinking of that medieval movie. But I'll give you some other recommendations here in a minute. The battle scenes during the Civil War looked painfully realistic and kind of almost like a Saving Private Ryan opening sequence where you're watching people get shot in the head and fall down and into the mud and stabbing each other. It's just like, yikes, wow. And my husband has ancestors who fought in the Civil War, and it just made me think of them and made my heart just ache for how awful that must have been. There is talk about faith in God, as well as questioning, why hasn't God saved us? And if you're Christian, I think this story is an excellent illustration of faith without works is dead. And the reason I say that is because some of the slaves are, sitting around, I mean, suffering, but they're sitting around, why hasn't God saved us? Whereas this one slave says, well, he doesn't say it, but he takes action to save himself and his family. And so if you have a heart, I think you will cry while watching this heartbreaking movie. Now, with that praise, let me tell you some of the things that I didn't like or just thought could have been done better. First of all, this kind of movie usually releases in December, hoping to bait an Oscar nomination and consideration for multiple prizes and awards in different categories. And it'll be interesting to see if the Academy just snubs the movie completely because of Will Smith, or if they will still award the extreme talent that's displayed in this movie. It would have been interesting to learn more about the Buffalo Soldiers. We do see them towards in Act 3, towards the end of the movie, and that alone could be a movie. We've seen a little bit of that in other movies. I'd like to see more of that, though. The slave owners are portrayed as ruthless monsters, and I believe many of them probably were. But there are no exceptions to that stereotype that are shown in this movie. There were even Black slave owners and Africans in Africa who sold out their own countrymen to the European slave traders. Of course, none of that is mentioned in this movie. So I've heard that there are some other historical inaccuracies, and that always drives me nuts a little bit, because I feel like I want to be learning truth. So tell me what really happened. So let me give you some tips for parents. This is rated R and definitely not easy nor appropriate family viewing, especially for kids. There is violence, a lot of violence with various weapons, as well as hand-to-hand combat. Very disturbing images, profanity. We see heads on stakes along a road. We see a gutted animal hanging up on spikes. We see slaves being beaten, branded, chained, shot, tossed into an open grave, and on and on and on. And the Civil War scenes are just brutal with a very high dead body count. Some of the themes that are illustrated very powerfully are slavery, of course, freedom, the Civil War, family, perseverance, Buffalo Soldiers, courage, and faith in God. So whenever I watch movies, I try to write down interesting lines and funny lines, just so I can share the dialogue with you, so you can get a taste for the film. Now, this is a drama. There were no funny lines that I remember hearing. And so here are a couple of interesting lines. The first one is spoken, actually, both of these are lines that Will Smith speaks in the movie. He plays Peter, this Haitian slave, or he's in the United States, but he's from Haiti. And he actually has a Haitian accent, which I thought was pretty good. I've been around some Haitians, and it seemed thicker in the beginning of the movie rather than towards the end. But I thought Will Smith did a good job with the accent as well. But anyway, here's one of the lines. He says, God shows himself to some people, but not to others. And that's partly in the conversation about, where is God? How is he letting us suffer like this? When is he going to save us? And just him speaking to the faith that you've got to believe. And then another line that he says is, when one of these horrible slave owners, basically pulls a gun at him and says, beg, beg, like a dog. And finally, Peter says, you are not my God. And that's very evident in his belief system and the way that he behaves in the movies as well. All right. Oh, wait, I found some more lines that I just wrote. This is a really good one. Also spoken by Peter. He says, they break the bones in my body more times than I can count, but they never break me. Now, that's not me trying to give a French Haitian accent, but I kind of was saying it weird. Anyway, really good line. And that's definitely what happens in the movie, that he is broken physically, but not emotionally or spiritually. And then another line spoken by a soldier as the Buffalo Soldiers are being formed, he says, we will not ask for freedom. We will not wait for freedom to be given to us. We will take freedom. And then there's the big emotional cry for freedom, and all the soldiers are all fired up and ready to go. Anyway, I thought it was a really good movie. And after, when I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is really powerful. And then I looked at some reviews and I was like, really? They didn't enjoy this. I mean, it's not a movie that you enjoy. It's a hard movie to watch, but I definitely saw the skill and the talent in the filmmaking. Some people have criticized the script for really not adding anything to the topic of slavery other than, slaves were beaten and treated poorly. We already knew that. And yet I've also heard audiences say, we need more movies about slavery. We need to continue talking about this so that it never happens again. Anyway, before we go, let me give you recommendations for 4 movies that I instantly thought of as I was watching this one. The first one is 12 Years a Slave. Now, that one won all kinds of praise and attention from the Academy Awards and is a very powerful movie. Another one that I saw many years ago that I've only seen it the once and I still think about it. I should watch it again, but it's called Amazing Grace. And it's about the slave trade. It starts off in England, and really the British slave trade is the focus, but it's also a really cool telling of the story of how the hymn Amazing Grace came to be. And so I thought it was just excellent. And then another more recent one is called Harriet, and it's about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad and how this brave woman tried to save slaves. And then the last one is called The Birth of a Nation and gives a larger scope of the Civil War in general. All excellent movies if you're interested in seeing more on the topic. All right, that is it. Phew, that was a long review. Thank you for listening to the bitter end. Well, hopefully it wasn't so bitter, but hopefully if you watch this movie that you will enjoy it. And if you don't, I did give you some heads up on the content and all of that. So anyway, be sure and keep watching my reviews. I've got many more to come. I'm trying to catch up with everything and even get ahead of some. So have a fantastic day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.